The first time Kiru agreed to be a surrogate, she believed it was a simple act of compassion. The couple she was helping, Chinidu and Amarachi, appeared perfect, well-spoken, financially stable, and deeply wounded by years of childlessness. They met at a quiet cafe on a rainy evening, where Amarachi spoke softly about miscarriages and silent prayers, her eyes always fixed on the table. Nkiru listened, moved by a pain she could feel even without words. She had already decided before the meeting ended. As weeks turned into months, small things began to disturb Nkiru's peace. Chinidu called too often, sometimes late at night, asking detailed questions about her body, her movements, her meals. Amarachi, on the other hand, became distant. She replied late to messages and skipped appointments she once insisted on attending. When Kuru visited their home for routine discussions, the house help avoided her eyes, as though she knew something Kiru didn't. Nkiru told herself it was stress. Childlessness changed people. By the 5th month, the pregnancy was strong and healthy, but fear quietly crept in. One evening, Nkiru opened her email and froze. There were pictures of her, entering her compound, buying food by the roadside, sitting alone in her living room. They were taken from outside her window. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. She had never shared her address with anyone connected to Chinidu and Amarachi. Someone had been watching her for a long time. She didn't tell the couple. Something in her warned her not to. Instead, she tightened her security, locked her doors earlier, and began documenting every conversation, every visit, every call. The baby in her womb kicked often at night, and Kiru would whisper prayers, asking God to protect an innocent life she was only meant to carry, not keep. At 7 months, Amarachi showed up unannounced. Her eyes were sunken, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched her phone. She barely spoke, scanning the room as if expecting someone else to appear. When her phone rang, she stepped outside to answer, whispering in hushed tones. Kiru felt a heavy knot in her chest. This was no longer just a surrogacy agreement. It was something darker, something dangerous, and she was standing at the center of it, pregnant, vulnerable, and surrounded by secrets. Kiru barely slept that night. Every sound outside her window felt louder than usual, every passing shadow stretching into something threatening. By morning, she had convinced herself she was overthinking, yet her body refused to relax. The baby kicked restlessly, as if sensing her fear. 2 days later, she attended a routine hospital checkup alone. As she sat in the waiting area, a woman across the room kept staring at her. The woman was older, wrapped in a faded wrapper, her face lined with deep sorrow. When their eyes finally met, the woman stood up abruptly and walked toward Nkiru. "You are the one carrying the child," the woman said in a low voice, gripping Nkiru's arm before she could react. Nkiru stiffened. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know me, but I know them. Chinidu and Amarachi." The name sent a sharp pain through Nkiru's chest. The woman glanced around nervously before leaning closer. "That baby is not the first, and you are not the first woman." Before Nkiru could ask another question, a nurse called her name. When she turned back, the woman was already gone, leaving behind a single sentence echoing in her head. "Not the first." That evening, Nkiru tried calling Chinidu. He didn't answer. She called Amarachi next. The call rang out. Fear tightened its grip around her heart. For the first time since agreeing to the surrogacy, she wondered if she had made a mistake she might not survive. Determined to find answers, Nkiru began digging. She searched online records, social media posts, anything connected to the couple. What she found made her stomach turn. Amarachi had once posted pictures with a visibly pregnant woman years ago, calling her family. The woman's profile no longer existed. Another post mentioned a miracle baby that was never shown. No birth announcement. No child. Then Kiru found a comment buried deep under one photo. "Where is Ngozi?" Her hand shook as she scrolled further. That name appeared again and again in old conversations, always unanswered. The next shock came when she visited the couple's house without informing them. The gate was locked, the compound unusually silent. A neighbor recognized her immediately. "You're the pregnant one," the woman said slowly. "God will help you." Nkiru's throat went dry. "Help me with what?" The neighbor hesitated, then lowered her voice. The last one disappeared. Police came. Nothing was proven. After that, everyone kept quiet. Nkiru felt the world tilt. Disappeared. That night, she packed a small bag. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stay where she was. As she stepped out of her apartment, a black car pulled up quietly beside her. The window rolled down. It was Chinidu. "You shouldn't be running," he said calmly, smiling in a way that made her blood run cold. "You're carrying something very important to us." Nkiru took a step back, clutching her stomach instinctively. In that moment, she understood the truth too late. This was never about helping a childless couple. She was part of a pattern, and if she didn't escape now, she would become another name people whispered about and never found. Nkiru's heart pounded so loudly she was sure Chinidu could hear it. The night air felt thick as she backed away from the car, her hand pressed firmly against her stomach. The smile on his face never reached his eyes. "Get in," he said softly, as though speaking to a stubborn child. "You're tired. You shouldn't be stressing yourself in this condition." Nkiru shook her head. Her legs trembled, but fear sharpened her instincts. "I'm done," she said, her voice barely steady. "I know about the others." For the first time, Chinidu's smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it returned, wider, colder. "You know nothing." Before he could step out of the car, Nkiru turned and ran. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she couldn't be caught. She ran past clothes shops, past dark compounds, ignoring the pain shooting through her back and legs. The baby kicked hard, and she whispered apologies through tears. When she finally stopped, breathless and shaking, she found herself at a small roadside church, its gates slightly open, a dim light glowing inside. She pushed the gate open and collapsed onto the steps. The watchman rushed toward her, alarmed by her state. Within minutes, the pastor and his wife were by her side, helping her inside, listening as she poured out everything between sobs, the surrogacy, the warnings, the disappearances, the car. They didn't question her story. They believed her immediately. That night, they hid Nkiru in a small room behind the church. Her phone was switched off, her location erased. The pastor contacted a trusted lawyer and a women's protection group that specialized in cases no one wanted to talk about. For the first time in weeks, Nkiru slept, though her dreams were filled with shadows and running feet. Chinidu searched for her. He came to her apartment the next morning. The landlord told him she had moved out suddenly. He went to a hospital. No records. He called. Her phone was off. Amarachi, now frantic, began having breakdowns at home, screaming that everything was falling apart. 3 days later, the contraction started. Nkiru screamed as pain ripped through her body. She was rushed to a private clinic under a different name. The labor was long, brutal, and terrifying. At dawn, a baby girl was born, her cry filling the room with life and defiance. Nkiru wept uncontrollably. As she held the baby, something inside her broke and healed at the same time. She had agreed to carry a child and give her away, but no one had warned her how deeply her soul would recognize the life it nurtured. Still, she knew the truth. Keeping the baby without protection would put them both in danger. Within hours, the lawyer arrived with devastating news. Chinidu and Amarachi had been reported before, multiple times. Each case vanished due to money, influence, and fear. But this time was different. Nkiru was alive. She had evidence. Emails, photos, call logs, witnesses, and she was willing to testify. But the lawyer warned her gently. "Once you do this, there's no turning back. They will come for you." Nkiru looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms and made a decision that shocked everyone in the room. She said, "Then let them come. I'm not running anymore." The news broke quietly at first, the way dangerous stories often do. A missing women investigation was reopened under a different name, linked to a surrogacy ring no one wanted to acknowledge. Nkiru stayed hidden, moving only when absolutely necessary, the baby always wrapped tightly against her chest. Every knock made her flinch. Every unfamiliar face sent her heart racing. Still, she refused to disappear again. Chinidu was arrested first. It happened in broad daylight, outside his office. People watched in shock as officers placed him in handcuffs. Amarachi collapsed when she heard, screaming that it was all lies, that they were being framed. But the evidence was heavy, undeniable. Nkiru's records connected too many dots. Other women's names began to surface. Ngozi, Ifeananya, Zainab, stories of pregnancies that ended without babies, without mothers. During interrogation, Chinidu finally spoke. What he revealed made even the investigators uneasy. The babies had never been meant to live ordinary lives. They were sold illegally to powerful families, couples who wanted children without questions, without records. The women who carried them became liabilities. Some were paid to stay silent. Others were not so lucky. But then came the twist no one expected. DNA tests were ordered as part of the case. When Kiru's results came back, the room went silent. The baby was not biologically related to Amarachi. She never was. Amarachi had lied from the beginning. She wasn't infertile. She was incapable of carrying a pregnancy safely due to a rare condition that caused multiple late-term losses. In desperation and greed, they had turned surrogacy into a business. But this child was different. The biological mother was Ngozi, the woman who disappeared. Ngozi hadn't vanished by accident. She had tried to escape with her baby. She had failed. Nkiru felt her knees weaken as the truth sank in. The baby she had grown to love was never meant to be handed over. She was evidence, living proof of a crime buried under years of silence. The court battle was brutal. Chinidu tried to negotiate. Amarachi cried endlessly, claiming she had only wanted to be a mother. But the judge was unmoved. Too many lives had been destroyed. Nkiru testified with a strength she didn't know she had. She spoke for herself, and for the women who never got the chance. When the verdict came, the courtroom erupted. Chinidu was sentenced to life imprisonment. Amarachi received a long sentence for conspiracy and human trafficking. The surrogacy network was exposed, its powerful clients dragged into the light. Months later, life grew quiet. Nkiru stood in a modest courtroom again, this time for a different reason. She held the baby, now named Kayamika. God is beautiful, as the judge finalized the adoption. You saved her life, the judge said softly, and she saved yours. As Nkiru stepped outside into the sunlight, she realized something profound. She had entered surrogacy to give life to someone else's dream. She had walked through fear, betrayal, and death. But in the end, she found a truth no one could take from her. She wasn't just a surrogate mother. She was the reason a buried truth came alive. And the baby in her arms, once meant to disappear, would grow up knowing she was born from courage, not secrecy.